Okay, so previously we created the DTCP tables. So the next step in data modeling is to create the data table object. The data table object is the abstraction that connects the data model to the DTCP table, that is, to the actual raw database table. So once we create the data table object, then we'll go ahead and actually start creating data models. So let's create this data table object. The first step is to create a category, and this category should have the same name as the DTCP table. And if you remember previously, that table is called just DTCP table. That's the name we gave it. You can give it any other name, but that's what it was called. So let's give it the same. Let's give the data table category the same name. And then we're going to create the actual data table object by navigating to the data modeling menu, and this should just be called data table in lowercase. So now we have our data table object. Let's open this up and see what's in it. It has a name, and it's the same name as the data table, as the DTCP table that we created. That's what it should remain. You can ignore the Quetzilla Javalang class field that's used internally. And then we need to connect it to a data source. So we'll go to our application settings category and drag and drop our data source in here. And then save. And we have a type column which is automatically filled in for us. So we'll leave that. Every data model will eventually have a type column. You can check the documentation for details on that. So we have our data table object. Now we need to create another category under our data table category. It's going to be called columns. That's where the column objects that are generated will be stored. And those column objects will connect our data model fields to actual columns in the database. Again, it's another abstraction. So let's create this category. And then to generate the columns, you're going to right click on the columns category, navigate to your data modeling menu, and select generate columns. And this will bring up a utility that allows us to generate these columns. You can actually do this manually, but that would be tedious. So let's drag and drop the data table that we created, drop it there, and then you say get columns. This will go to the database using the data source configuration and pull out all the columns that are in that DTCP table. Now, to generate the data table column objects, you can just check all of this, and then you say generate. Once I hit that button, it's going to generate objects to represent all these columns under the columns category. So let's hit that, and it will start generating our column object. Those objects are going to be used then to connect fields to database columns, to data column fields. To data model fields, right? So your data model is going to be the object, the business object that you use in your application. So you can think of, say, customer, purchase order, anything that represents a business object, you would model as a data model. So it's generated all these columns. So now we have our data table object. This is a bridge between our DTCP tables, which is the raw database, which we're using as a storage device, and it's connecting it to our data model, which represents the actual business objects in our applications. So we're done with the data table generation. Now we're going to go to actual data modeling in the next lesson. Thank you.